Danny, thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us. No, it's a big night.
Pleasure.
Now the movie, it's about kind of a bit of a mentalist who takes this girl on a bit of a ride over one night, and she's trying to escape the whole time. I'm wondering if you were in a similar situation. You know, do you think that you can handle it? Do you think you get away?
The clever thing about the script and what, you know, J.K. Amalu wanted to do is not make her this screaming little, you know, terrified. I mean, she is in the first sort of 10 minutes, and then she starts to suss me out. She starts to play the game with me, and I think that's the key with my character, is I picked the wrong victim, because I think the victims I've killed in the past have been screaming and all this sort of stuff, and I've probably killed them to shut them up. Whereas she plays the game with me, and she, you know, sort of, in a way, I'm falling in love with her as it goes on. For me, it's like a date.
Yeah, you get that sense.
The guy is insane. He's insane. There's no two ways about that. And she clocks that, and she sees that my mood can change very quickly. So she tries to keep me in this sort of jolly mood where she's actually she's having quite a nice time. Yeah. So I think for me, look, I'm a man, so I would fight it fire with fire. Probably if I got put in a situation, we'd be kidnapped, wouldn't we? Not that bad, is it? I mean, if it was another geezer to take me away and do nasty things to me, then I'm going to go like that. I think with the woman, it's a different thing. So that's the thing what appealed to me about it. It wasn't obvious, me just terrorising a bird for an hour and a half.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it was a bit like, by the end of the film, she's got all the power. Yeah.
Now, most of the movie is shot at night. I wonder, does that kind of shooting schedule take its toll? It must be exhausting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you know, it's always tough when you're, and I've done a couple of movies that are set over one night. I did another movie called Doghouse, which was a sort of comedy horror type thing, and so it's got one costume. You know, you spread over 4.5 weeks, so you've got to keep in the same. You've got to have the same mental capacity throughout, and you never, especially with this role, I could never quite switch off. I'm not method. Never been method, but with this I was constantly thinking about it. There's so many layers to him, and he's quite a complex character. So I was coming home 6:30 in the morning, my missus is getting up with the kids, you know, and I'm ratty. I was ratty, you know. The job I've got, and I love it, but it's not the sort of job where the missus go, oh, how was your day? Oh well, you know, today I just drank with a couple of people and I cut someone's throat, you know. So it was a very internal thing, and you keep it to yourself. You can't really talk to anyone about it. So it was tough, and also it was freezing. Yeah. I mean, it was cold, you know. And I've got so much respect for the crew who work their bonnets off. I'll be honest with you, they work so hard, and there's no money on it, you know. And they was out in the elements. I mean, at least me and Anna was in the car for most of it. They was outside, and it was tough. It was a tough gig.
But as cross as you got, as grumpy as you got, you never kind of waved your shank around or anything. It didn't go that far.
No, I kept my shank quite low, you know. You know, not a good look to be running about in London with a shank in your hand.
It's not.
And, you know,
it's
so,
not.
You know, I was very aware, and also the shank for me, it's a tool that I keep I'm very quick with it. I always sort of, we spoke about this, me and Joe, I'm like a snake, you know, and I sort of just strike with it, you know what I mean? It's like I don't, because I am just evil to the bone, I don't wave it about for effect. But when that comes out of my pocket, I'm going to plunge someone. I know exactly where I'm going to plunge them, and I know exactly what I'm doing, and so it was always a moment in the film when that comes out, you know something's going to happen.
It's a very different kind of character than we're used to seeing you as. He's actually the most irredeemable character that I can ever think you've played. Is that what appealed to you about playing it?
I've took a bit of time out recently. I lost my way a little bit, just thinking about the check more than the piece of the work, you know. And I got a little bit lazy, and I needed to just take some time out and just think about things a little bit. This script came along, and there was no money on it at all, so it was never about the money. I was just honoured that he asked me to do this, and he trusted me to do it, because, like I said, I've not really had a chance. I've done some good movies, I've done some bad ones. I've never really had a chance to really express myself and show people what I can actually do. And there is a lot about me, and I've got a lot to show. And it's the beauty of being an actor. I'm 34 now. I've been doing it 20 years, but I still haven't really. You can never learn enough. You never quite know what's around the corner. So this was perfect for me, and it was going back to basics. It was like a student film in ways. There's no disrespect to anybody on it. but they basically had enough money to hire a production office, and in that production office is where we changed our clothes. I mean, it was all in this room. There's no trailers.
It sounds very
intimate. Lunchtime was like, who wants chips? Do you want fish with your chips? And running around the chip shop and getting 20 bags of chips for it. I mean, that was the vibe. I mean, I found that quite tough because of the character I was playing. I needed a bit of time. I wasn't very good at doing the small talk at lunch because I know that after lunch I'm going to, be terrorising people. So it was all about performance, and that's what I wanted to get back to. Just the idea of me and another actor in a car, no gimmicks, nowhere to hide, and we have to keep this piece interesting, purely from our performance.
Now, we've seen you play a lot of different kinds of career criminals. Obviously, in this film, you're like a proper psycho, but you've done the gangster bit, and I wonder, it doesn't sound like it, but if the acting dried up, do you think you've learned enough that you could actually embark on a proper villain's career?
Well, I was brought up with villains, I was brought up in that sort of area, so I've always had that around me anyway, so that's where I, use some of my knowledge and I put that into characters. I'm not a villain in any way, shape or form. The last thing I want to be doing is rolling about the floor fighting with people, I'm certainly not a thug, but then at the same time I'm not a prick. I'll stand up and be counted if I have to. So that's the beauty of it, I can flip in between the worlds, But no, I'll be a useless criminal, I'll be banged up straight away, mate. Okay,
well the other thing that we're used to seeing you as a lot is like a guy, in a horror movie where you've got to survive a bewildering number of different kinds of monsters and creatures, and I wonder, how would you fare in, say, like a zombie apocalypse then? You don't have to be the bad guy, but could you survive in a post-apocalyptic future?
I think I'd get on all right, actually, from the experience I've had, especially with Doghouse, Severance as well, it was films like that as well, I think I was the character in a conventional horror movie that wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
Because I'm a cheeky chappy, and especially in Severance, I'm taking drugs at the beginning, and I'm seeing the monsters before everybody else, or the terrorists as they are in that film, and usually that one dies.
Always,
and also I'm the most useless one, and I'm hiding in wardrobes and all this sort of stuff. Toby Stephens would have been the hero of the piece. And that's what I loved about that as well, is the shock of, when Toby Stephens goes, and I'm the one that survives. So I've got all the comedy lines in that movie, and I'll become the action hero at the end. Same with Doghouse, I'll survive it. I'll come to the front. There's only 4 of us, I think, that survive. So yeah, bring it on, zombies. I love the idea of a movie I did called Devil's Playground, which was zombies, but they were played by free runners. So usually zombies are just sort of slow things, where these free runners were like 100 miles an hour, jumping across buildings, and I like the idea of that kind of zombie. I think that's more exciting than just the shuffling one, which you could just fucking headbutt and go fuck away from me, you stink.
Free running zombies though, that sounds pretty cool.
That's cool, it was really cool.
I think I would just give up then. Well, if they're so much fitter than you, if they're fitter than you when you're alive, then it's like, what chance have you got?
Fucked. To put it technically.
Now, you've done a lot of stage work. You've done some productions with, Harold Pinter. It's a very far cry from the kind of screen work that you've done. Is that something that you would like to do more of? It's not something that people, I think, on the whole, generally think of you as.
No, they don't. I mean,
is that something you'd like to change?
I'm always on the lookout. I like to do a play once every 2 years, something like that, but it has to be the right play, and it has to be for the right amount of time. The only thing I find difficult is the length of time. 6 months in the West End, as much as it'd be a brilliant role and it's an honour, I've got 2 kids to bring up, and 8 shows a week, you're just never around, I mean, the last play I did was Curtain Sid. I played Sid Vicious at the Trafalgar Studios, and perfect 5-week run, tough gig, but I mean, what it does is as an actor, you can get quite lazy making movies, just in the fact that you've got another go. Whereas theatre gives you box.
Yeah.
It's like, right, you get a 3-4 week rehearsal, get out on that stage in front of a live audience, and you've got to commit and you've got to pull it out of the bag. So you need it gives you a little shake, And also, when you finish that play, you're ready for your next film, and you're really in tune. You're tuned up.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for something. Nothing's coming at the moment, but I do love theatre. I do love it.
You kind of famously turned down a role in EastEnders. You said you couldn't handle the pressure. I wondered, were you just being polite?
No, it wasn't. I turned it down. It was just that I was a bit sort of like, in a place in my own career where I was making movies, and it didn't feel right, you know. And it wasn't so much as I turned it down. It was more, it was a bit sort of up in the air, the character I was going to play and what I was going to do, and they put an idea to me, and so I was just a bit like, you know what, I'm honoured, thank you, but at the moment, a very good friend of mine, Jamie Foreman's in it at the moment, you know.
Jamie Foreman's great.
Smashing it, doing what he's doing, you know, and he's a great actor, and it's great to, you know, that he's on telly every single night, because he is a real talent, Jamie.
So if you could turn up just for one episode, to be a
I'll
character of your
do it maybe in
choosing,
a week, 2 weeks.
who would you like to turn up? Ian McKellen did it. He did a week of Corrie.
Yeah, maybe I'll do something like that. I don't know. Maybe, you know, it would have to be left field and not obvious, and not coming up against Jamie Foreman as you know, some sort of villain. You know, it'd have to be something different. Maybe a gay aristocrat who's lost everything and turns up on the square.
Okay, right, we'll quote you on that. Right, final question. On the IMDb, you're coming up to 70 credits now, and you seem like a bit of a workaholic to me. It seems like you're always doing something, and you look up year by year, you've got a lot, you're doing your Bravo documentaries, you're doing the films, you're doing the plays. I wonder, you know, do you have a plan? Where would you like to be, say, in 5 years?
I've never had a plan. I'll take each day as it comes, and the reason I took a bit of time out was because one year I did like 8 movies, and that's not healthy for anybody. You know, not for my credibility, not for my health, not for my kids' sake, not for anybody. My missus, bless her, never around, you know. So if I can bang out 2 films a year, quality, I'll be happy with that, and maybe a play in between. That would be my ideal thing, you know. But they've got to be quality.
Danny, thank you very much. Good luck with the movie.
Thank you.
One on me if you want, but just remember this. I've got absolutely nothing to lose. You just made me kill a bloke for nothing. Nobody's gonna help you. This is my turn.